jungle out there. Sorry, Monk. Anyway, Benjamin and I saw Joe Murphy and Joe Robertson's The Jungle at St. Anne's Warehouse. It was this immersive, eye-opening piece, and Ben's going to start it off.
The Jungle tells the story of a refugee encampment in Calais, France, where refugees are waiting to make refuge to the UK due to Calais being a short boat ride over. The story is grounded in real-life events, following the story of volunteers, refugees, and government officials who influence those looking to escape hardships. Eva, anything you want to add?
Yes, I just want to say that we're all settled in a different country. So we were in Sudan, but like these were people from, like you were saying before, all over the place, like Sudan, Somalia, Pakistan, Afghanistan. I'm probably missing a whole bunch. There was probably 26 different countries. But here's the thing. They all had one person representing their country. And even though they came from different cultures and different kind of religions, even though some were Muslims, but different kind of Muslims, they Christians, there was a church there was a mosque there, they had a school there, this was a little city here on the off the roadside of Calais. And they all managed to compromise and live together peacefully. And it was just this wonderful utopian place, even though their situations were so horrific. And this one guy, Hassan, really all he cared about was this restaurant. It meant everything to him. And he did everything he could to protect him. And there was this kid who went through hell, and all he wanted to do was go to England. His phone tone was the White Cliffs of Dover. I mean, the parents making the sacrifice so their children could find a better life. What they tried to do, because they had to get smuggled. There was a smuggler there who actually was not a bad guy, who was trying to get these people to England through trucks and ships, and it was and police brutality. I mean, it was just so moving. And just in the news recently was this boat that got capsized from going to Italy, trying to get to there's all these stops along the way. It's a perilous journey. And it's like, why can't they go to England? And the British volunteers, you think, they're just doing it to make themselves feel better. But no, they really were sincere in wanting to make houses, wanting to help these people. It was just incredibly. Take it away, Ben.
So really, just from the moment you walk in, you're really put into the environment of this setting and show. Really the most immersive experience I've ever had in the theater. And the story only continues to be more relevant. As Eva mentioned, you continue to see stories of overcrowded migrant ships that capsize. It was, of course, thought-provoking and made me check my own privilege and reevaluate my own family story and look to see how kind the world is to refugees all around.
Anyway, I'm giving this like a major happy face while I was crying like a puddle.
I agree. Happy face plus. Really incredible moving production.
The Mint is now presenting Becomes a Woman by Betty Smith. Now, Betty Smith is very famous for her 1943 novel, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. The main character is named Francie Nolan, like the character in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, but the story is quite different. This Francie is a really great singer. She's 19 years old, but she's very naive and afraid of men. Lots of men at the store where she works singing to sell sheet music want to take her out, but she refuses until the son of the chain store owner comes in, and he's like Prince Charming. We also get to meet her working class Irish American parents who are not supportive when she's in a real crisis. Only her friend from work, Tessie, who had a difficult time in her past, helps her out a lot. A wonderful production by the Mint, which has a beautiful, colorful, lively department store set and a rather grim working class family kitchen set. So this is one of the best plays I've seen in a while. Major happy place.
I saw Letters from Max at the Signature Theater on now through March 19th. It follows and personifies the relationship between Sarah Rule, professor at Yale, and student Max Ritvo. It's really sweet to get a glimpse into firsthand the relationship that develops over time, from first student teacher to then friends. It started with a poetry class that Max took as a student under Sarah. And as we soon learn, Max has a form of cancer that only becomes more and more grave. And so unfortunately, I felt like that kind of set my expectations, and I knew where this show was heading from the get-go. However, it had beautiful staging and a really, really nice development of a relationship between these two characters. So I'm going to go ahead and give the show a happy face minus.
Here we are with the former co-host from High Drama, Karl O'Brien Williams, who, with his own theater company, Broad Productions, is putting on his play, The Black That I Am, a meditation on Blackness. So tell us all about this and how your company and this play, how it came about, all the details.
Broad Productions began in 2009. Fellow theater colleague, contemporary Andrew Clark, who I know from Jamaica, came to New York. And at the time, I was at NYU doing an Ed Theater Masters. And, you know, we had a meeting right outside Washington Square Park. And he said to me, you know, let's start a theater organization. I've been thinking about doing Caribbean theater, Jamaican theater. I want to start a folk singing group. What do you think about that? And, you know, I was just like, yeah, that would be great. And I think the rest just kind of happened from there. We began with theater. We were doing a play called Positive, which was about sexual health and the Jamaican community. We did that here. We did that for schools. We did that. I even had done it at NYU. And then the folk arts came in. So we are now doing, and that's since 2009. So now we do folk arts, theater, education, and outreach, right? And it's been a home for me to curate and develop work for the stage, which is fantastic because we're all about that. Putting on Caribbean stories, telling the stories about our ancestry, promoting Caribbean talent. So The Black That I Am now has its own history because that predates Broad Productions. That happened when I came here years ago and cut my teeth on the downtown theater scene, Lower East Side. Alex Rowe from Metropolitan Playhouse cast me in a play, Fashion. And so I was doing, you know, just acting and running around New York City. And I also was running around with a very good friend of mine that I knew from university days called Stacey-Ann Shin, who had made a name for herself on the spoken word poetry scene. And she's an out LGBTQ, you know, queer activist, feminist. And I was hanging in her apartment a lot. And she was surrounded all the time by feminists, Black feminists in particular, women of color who were activists. So the politics was high in that in that apartment. Every soiree, meeting, drink up, whatever you want to call it, with food was always littered with talk about Blackness and social justice and transformation, and, you know, taking down the patriarchy. So I was surrounded with that, and she encouraged me to write. So it was in her apartment that this poem was born called "The Black That I Am," and I would then go back to Jamaica, and a wonderful actress by the name of Jean Small had a program on Radio Mona, and she was looking for people to read their work, you know, and she said, come read, don't you write? And I said, well, you know, I'm an actor, I'm not really a writer. She said, come read, you're writing, come read whatever, come on the show. I read the poem on her show, and as the universe would have it, who heard it but my former teacher from university, who taught me theater, Brian Heap. And he was just like, call me. He's like, I think we have something here. We can do something with this. This poem, I think, can be expanded into something for the stage. I don't know what. It might not be a play. It'll be experimental theater, be all these things. And he loves devised work. So this was right up his alley. Convinced me to extend it. I went back to New York, and then I was also in Austin and DC and being on couches, doing my actor grind, wherever I could get the work. And in between auditioning, not finding work, I decided to write. So I extended the piece, put in monologues, and then when I went back to Jamaica the following year, we got to work on it, and it just became this beautiful collaborative piece from then. Started, we went to his apartment, got a team together, choreographers, musicians, uh, people who are in, doing sound technology, that sound engineering work. Everyone was just there, friends, lots of friends at that time, right? Just a bunch of artists who were at the beginning of their careers. Some had just left college, and it was just a good time putting this together. And what we came up with then morphed into other stagings of it. This has been done in Glasgow. The National Theatre of Scotland got wind of it through another colleague of mine and friend, Kai Miller, who is a genius writer in his own right. He kind of bridged that connection between the University of West Indies, me, and National Theatre of Scotland, and it was done there in Galloway, and I was just blown away by the fact that they were doing this. It was that they have this pub theater, a play, a pint, and was it a pub, a play? I forget the name, but it says Oranmore, right? A play, a pint, and a pie. That was it. A play, a pint, and a pie. So it was like pub theater. So it was great. And then Julene Robinson, a brilliant actor who is based in the UK right now doing some fantastic work. She was in school at Rose Bruford, and her acting teacher was encouraging her. She would do some of the monologues from my piece. Said, I think you can do something here. Let's take this to Edinburgh. And then she approached me and she's just like, we need more. I need more than just one monologue. So I just rewrote the show for her. So it's been done as a one woman show. I changed the gender, and he was working with her and just thought some things worked, some things didn't. And so it was done at the Edinburgh Theatre Festival, and it was well received. She got some good reviews. I didn't really get some good reviews, but again, the piece has always been I've always seen it as something to be continued, to evolve. And for me, when I as a playwright, when I get something that's uber critical in terms of writing, I know it's not the end. It's never the end. Um, Having been a reviewer as well and a teacher, you kind of then know, fine, this is not the last hurrah, to take the words and then it's going to have another life. And I've been fortunate that this piece continues to have another life. And so here we are at Hair Art Center in their sublet series. My lighting designer is from Barbados, Monet Stamp, so is my costume stylist, Davin. And it's like, wow, all of these elements are coming together to talk about Blackness and realizing, oh, what is going on here? I have to write about this. It was impacting me so much that I had to write about it. And it continues to evolve as issues in the Black community evolve, as we continue to deal with discrimination, talk about things like nationalism, like what does it mean to even put forward the red, white, and blue, and the black, green, and gold, and all these colors and symbols that we hold so dear to. Like when we start to think about what do they mean and what do they say? I'm not trashing anybody that wants to have a flag. Please, by all means, these things mean something to people. But I was raised Catholic, and so the crucifix had its own meaning, and then I'm recovering Catholic. But because of theater, I have met so many people from so many walks of life, so many ethnicities and religions. And it's not necessarily all in the piece, because then we'd be here for 3 hours. But it's it's what comes out every now and again when I meet with a group of artists and collaborate and decide to stage it. So I'm just happy that it's has another life.
The most recent change you've made.
And so I'll do it from a structural thing. The monologues are now more conversation. So the piece is like this big question mark, because I just wanted other voices. I wanted more voices. So whereas you had a work that featured about 5 monologues. Right now, there's probably just one real monologue in it. The piece now it's now more conversational. It's now more an ensemble piece. And I think that's what I'm excited to see, how that's going to translate to an audience. You know, we do have a talk back on the 25th, which I'm excited about, because I love when an audience gives me like immediate response and feedback. Because I don't intend to for this to be the last time it's staged. You know, I do want to keep working on it, and there were certain constraints with here, because with the Dot Theater, no piece in there can run over 75 minutes, because there are 2 theaters in here Arts Center. So, you know, it's a little bit, if you've been to like the Crane, if you right, and you know, so it you know, it's what I enjoy about the downtown theater scene as well. You know, it's not like, you know, one show's in there, it's like theater for a new audience. You've got all these multiple shows in, and you've got to collaborate and just respect everyone.
Well, it was wonderful to hear all about this. I can't wait to see it. And we have to wrap up now, but I just want to say,
Yeah.
I never realized, but being a reviewer, it really is helpful for a writer and helps with
Well,
your.
for me, I don't know about other people, but definitely for me.
Oh, that's great. So I'm glad I was able to contribute when you came here, and you were a wonderful reviewer. But we're looking forward to seeing Black That I Am. Did I
Yeah,
get the
Black
title
that I
right?
am.
At here. So thank you very much for coming on and telling us all about it. And seeing you again is wonderful.
Thank you all so much.
Metropolitan Playhouse is presenting 3 plays by Eulalie Spence, who was an important sort of avant-garde writer in the 20s and 30s, and also a teacher in the New York City public school system. An unusual voice of a Black woman at the time. And one of her students was Jo Papp, who said she was a tremendous influence on it. The 3 plays are set in Harlem, hot summer 1927. The first one, we have 2 young lovers on a park bench, and they're concerned, will they further their careers? Will they be able to get married? Will they have enough money? The second play deals with a numbers dealer who's very scheming and very dishonest. She seems to get away with it, but will she always? The third one involves a young woman who's planning to get married, but is the guy she's going to marry really the right one for her? What about another guy who likes her a lot, but she's ignored? These were really wonderful plays. Major happy place.
At Irish Rep, they're doing Ronan Noon's The Smuggler, a thriller in rhyme. It's directed by Connor Bagley, starring Michael Melumphy. It's a twisty, turny path down slippery slope as man tries to get money for a house his wife is desperate to have with their new family. Many surprises along the way. Very major happy face.
Sunday in the Park with George, running at Theater 2020 in Brooklyn, is Eva's favorite Sondheim musical. She loved it, but was upset because 1, Josh Powell, who played George, did not have a beard, and 2, women did not wear pants in the 19th century. That said, Theater 2020 has given us what one might call a Sunday in the Park light. Director David Fuller and choreographer Judith Jarosh have retained the core of the work and put it into an exquisite black box framework with minimal sets and engaging performances by an intelligent, well-rehearsed cast. Josh Powell navigates George's minefield of tropes with great charm. His energy never flags, nor does the cast in general ever lose focus. Ray Hillman plays Dot with great subtlety, effortlessly producing a lovely soprano. There were brilliant moments from everyone, with a sense of ensemble intimately shared by the entire cast. This is a well-considered performance of one of Sondheim's seminal works. Kudos to Fuller and Jarosh for coming out of the pandemic with such panache. Sunday in the Park with George runs through March 12th. Find theater at a reasonable price and an easy trip on the C train. A happy face from me.
At Playwrights Horizon, there's a page 73 production of The Trees by Agnes Borensky, and it's a very unusual premise. We have a brother and sister, they're adults. They were spending the night in the park near where their dead father's apartment was, and they wake up in the morning and they're stuck in the ground. They're planted and immobilized.
See, I found it weird but enjoyable. And it had one of my favorite actors in the world in it, Jess Barbagallo. And to see him in like this major role was like, yay! And Crystal Dickinson, he played the brother, and Crystal Dickinson played the sister. But it was interesting what relations. I mean, it's like the municipal, like you cannot live in a park if you're a human being, but if we classify you as a tree, it's okay for you to live there. So legally these human beings had to become trees. And you have like a whole dichotomy of people, like you have a rabbi coming in from Cleveland who's looking for a miracle because he's got lost his faith, and this is like restoring it. And you got Jess's old boyfriend coming in and being very histrionic, and you got a vendor who's hoping to make a little money, and you have the ex-boyfriend having this guy that someone has a crush on, and his boyfriend, and all these weird people coming together. And I almost forgot to mention, her Polish grandmother comes, and she just speaks Polish, and she has all this magical heebie-jeebie spell casting to help, relieve the situation or protect them. It's all very interesting. I love quirky characters, and yet it to me it was a sweet play. It just meant something to get all these people together, and it makes you think of Franz Kafka's The Cockroach, where one day you wake up and you're something else. But I love this. I'm giving this a happy face.
Well, I gave it mixed faces minus.
At Rattlestick Theater, creating also with National Black Theater, is A.K. Payne's Amani, about a young girl learning to live with a dead mother and imprisoned dad, and a series of bad relationships and how it shapes her. Amani starts out as a sweet, happy-go-lucky girl filled with self-confidence over mad basketball skills. She's 9 when she first visits her dad, Smith, who's in prison, and you can see they have a very special bond. When Smith gets out, he is determined to build a space rocket out of wood to take Amani and him to the moon, where they will finally be safe. Amani's mother, Deja, comes to her in dreams and looks after her. Slowly, you see Amani's confidence and optimistic nature stripped away when she goes out with a series of dreadful men. She lashes out and gets very angry, but her old friend from high school, Kofa, saves her and brings her soul back to her. Denise Manning as Amani is a real find. If anyone deserves a Theater World Award, it is her. I fell in love with her character the minute she came on. To see the change in her was heartbreaking, which made a period of adjustment as it turned into a completely different type of play. Dara was thinking how nice to see a girl with high self-esteem for a change and a solid relationship with her father, but constantly falling in love with the wrong type of man can shake the confidence of anyone. I want to give props to Daniel Brothers, who surrounded the theater with mementos and tchotchkes. It was a feast for the eyes. Amani wants to make you reach for the stars. Happy face minus.
Cabaret and Captivity presents songs and sketches from Terezin, which was a Nazi-era concentration camp, but not really an extermination camp. And it was sort of like a model place where Red Cross people were shown how wonderful the Nazis were to the Jews. Dubious at best. But lots of people with artistic and performance backgrounds were kept captive there, and they performed for themselves and their friends to boost their morale in this terrible time and place. I thought the idea of this was really wonderful and engaging, and the spirit and braveness of these people to perform when they really sensed they were doomed is amazing. But although I like a lot of songs and sketches, and even ones that are not positive at all from the 30s and 40s, most of these fell flat for me. There were some exceptions. I really liked My Suitcase and I, which a man is singing about his battered suitcase, and it's very much like a symbol of himself, wonderfully done, very provocative. And a beautiful song that was sung in German, Und der Regen rennt, and the rain comes down. Again, that really had a melody that I loved.
And I thought this was absolutely wonderful from beginning to end. I was moved. I was touched. I mean, it really put yourself back in the time as far as I was concerned. And I just found all of it terrific. I'm giving it a major happy face. And you can see it. It's coming back again March 18th and 19th, and I'll have all that information so you can go see this too, because it's really well worth seeing.
Well, I gave it mixed spaces plus. So again, I thought the idea was good.
At the Paper Mill Playhouse is Hercules, based on the Disney film, with music by Alan Menken, lyrics by David Zappel, book by Robert Horn, who did Tootsie, and Kwame Kwei-Armah, and it was directed by Lear DeBessano. Hades is going after Hercules with his minions Pain and Panic so he can take over Olympus from Zeus. Love interest Meg tries to hinder Hercules along with monsters. Hercules had help with sidekick Satyr, Phil, and horse Pegasus. The phenomenally talented Bradley Gibson from the Bronx Tales was Hercules. He showed strength, positivity, and humor, plus anguish and insecurity when it was required. And some Broadway favorites showed up. Shuler Hensley as blue-haired Hades was hilariously arrogant with a great final solo. James Monroe Englehart as Phil had sensitivity and pathos. Isabella McCall as Meg, humorously sarcastic with current event quips. Jeff Blumenkral as Panic, Reggie DeLeon as Pain, and the muses were Charity Allen Dawson, Tiffany Mann, Anastasia McCleskey, Destania Rhea, and Rashida Scott. And Chase Brock and Tanisha Scott's choreography of muses, monsters, and gods was incredible. And this is Howard Tucker's review. He didn't know how they did it. He just gives it a major happy face. Other things we will be seeing that we couldn't get on the show, but I will have the reviews on the Facebook page, is Mama, I Want to Sing 40th Anniversary Production at El Museo El Teatro, and Alira at the Atlantic Theater Company, Eric Bogosian's 1+1 at Soho Playhouse. So lots going on. Our next show is March 25th, I think, and we will have so much more to talk about, because at least 12 more plays to review.